red light's on. Do you see it? Do you feel
Yes,
the
I
pressure
see.
now? Like, oh my
I
gosh,
can
the red
feel it.
light's
I
on.
can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
Okay, I understand.
Let's go.
Well, let's start with first question. What'd you have for
Mhm.
breakfast this morning?
Oh, I had granola and
Okay.
then coffee, of course.
Okay. Now,
Two
anything
coffees
fancy in that?
already.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you're ready to go for the.
I am ready to go.
Anything fancy in that granola? Just some plain granola? You putting anything
Plain
in it?
milk.
Okay. All right. A little bit of milk.
Yeah. Does that make it more exciting?
I don't know if it makes it that more exciting, but my listeners, I've asked that question now. I think this will be episode 190, so I've asked that question 190 times. So,
Oh, wow. What was the
that's
most interesting breakfast response you got?
uh, there isn't really any. Everything is. I'm more shocked about the amount of people who are fasting right now.
Okay.
Like everybody's like, oh, I don't eat breakfast. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So, yeah, not a lot of people like the breakfast. They're all fasting right now. So. That's been more of the shocker. My other shocker one was that I actually interviewed somebody who kickstarted a breakfast product. So I figured that
Ooh,
she would
how
respond with her stuff, and she's like, "No, I didn't eat it." I'm like,
it wasn't ready yet.
"Okay, all right." So so you get some interesting questions there, or some interesting answers for sure. But well, why don't we actually get to why people might be listening? What we're actually here to talk about. So, why don't you do me a favor, introduce yourself, and if you could, tell people what you raised money for over on Kickstarter.
Yeah, of course. I'm Evi from Worldwide Buddies. We create educational picture books and toys that celebrate diversity. We've been doing this for 2 years now. And our Kickstarter project was a picture book called The Book of Cultures. So it's a 120-page picture book for young readers to discover the world and embrace diversity. The book includes 30 short stories. Every short story is on a different culture, follows a different character, or what we like to call buddy, from a different country. So 300 to 400 word short story that follows around the character. The concept is that, the themes or the characters' fears and dreams are universal and relatable to every child, but then each story is culturally embedded in a different country. So you can learn more about different traditions, different ways of living and being, and whatnot. And then, there's a 1-page illustration on each country, and then a 2-page activity sheet. So cool. Some more exercises and puzzles that bring each culture to life.
That's cool. What kind of age range are we talking is your reader for this?
So I like to think that a good children's story is applicable, across the board. Even people that are 8 years old can read it, especially since it has the educational element of learning about different countries. But I'd say you can start from the age of 3 for the stories. Then activities render themselves well for maybe slightly older children, so 5+. But it's a 3+ book.
Gotcha. Awesome. So where's the inspiration for this? How did you start working on a book of cultures?
So I guess the inspiration for Worldwide Buddies is something that's been brewing for the past 10 years now, maybe. When I moved from Cyprus to London to study, and I studied geography and anthropology, so I was really intrigued about how many different perspectives and diverse realities there are in the world, and how children are never exposed to them, and how we come to the world at the age of 20 with a very static idea of how things should be. So I started becoming more interested in education and how we can create stories for readers to learn more about the world, especially since children's minds are still not fully formed. They're ready to take in any idea as it is. They haven't developed that concept of stereotypes or rules, and then we give them all these stories of magic carpets can fly, and I don't know, probably at the age of 20 I thought that the idea of a magic carpet flying was way more believable than people eating with their hands, or people having all these different traditions. So I think that's how it started, of how can we give them like literature that will like transport them to distant parts of the world and help them become more culturally aware and open-minded. And I think like I ended up like doing my master's in education and creative writing, and like did my thesis around a similar concept of worldwide bodies and like creating like this sort of literature. Tabled it for some time, and then came back to it a couple of years ago. Ended up talking with a friend who told me you should talk to my sister who's an illustrator. One thing led to another. We created our first picture book, which was on Mexico. We created 2 collections on specific cultures, so like one on Mexico and one on China, and that's like a longer form picture book on Mexico, longer form picture book on China, and then some like additional toys around them. But then we kept getting lots of requests from people about like we would like more countries. We would like more. What about this country? What about that country?
Right.
And I think we came to realize we came to realize that also the people that were purchasing our products, we wanted them to learn about the world, but it was usually like expats from Mexico, or people who are about to travel to Mexico, or people whose like grandma was from Mexico, right? So we're like, this is not the exact point. The point is for like children to learn about places they would not have learned about otherwise. But then we realized that, you know, like the proposition of telling you like spend $50 to learn about like a random country that you haven't heard of before, that you have no connection to, might be a bit of a stretch. While if we have like one book that has like 30 countries inside, then it becomes a more interesting proposition for a buyer, where it's like, oh yeah, like it's appealing. You can learn about different countries. Like it justifies the cause more.
Sure.
So we went from creating specific collections to like this one book.
That's awesome. So when you kind of put that all together of like what you can visualize this product looking like, or this book looking like, what starts your process? Like, how do you start to, you know, get these stories together, pick the countries? Like, what starts happening for you guys?
So you obviously can't capture like a story of a country in like 300 words, right? Or the world, right? So we said like, let's take it from, you know, like let's try to be as accurate as possible. That's possible. But so we said like, let's divide the world into continents, and then see like a population of each continent. So like there are stories on each continent, and then like the continents that have like a larger population. So let's say Asia will have a few more stories on them. So like 7 stories on Asia versus 5 on Europe. Then from there we said, okay, like we won't be choosing countries that are like close to each other and share traditions and history. So like, let's try to have countries from each continent that are like as diverse as possible. But then also at the same time, we said, because we wanted to be as accurate as possible, or be able to speak to that culture as much as we can, like, let's also choose countries that we've visited or that we know more about. Then from there, we started reaching out to our friends, like where are friends from, like which countries can they help us with. So that was like the first process. We came up with a list, and then we started reaching out to people, first friends, family, acquaintances from those cultures. Then like we started like asking them to introduce us to other people, or reached out to organizations so that we can get as much information as possible from different people from that culture, like you know, the different like demographics of each culture, to again get like a story that speaks to a big part of that population.
Right.
So it's a multi-step process, let's say. So we get information from them, come up with some story ideas, and there's lots of back and forth of like, hey, like, what do you think about this concept? And then we write a story. What do you think about this story? Do you think it like speaks well to your country? Would you give it to a child, you know, like your the kid of your colleague, if you wanted them to teach them about your culture? And yeah, so it's multi-step process, trying to be as accurate as possible. And
how long is that process from this sort of collecting to like putting together maybe a first draft of something, of like trying to put all these collections together into something to actually like see flow, and like how long is that process?
I mean, in terms of hours, maybe it's like, let's say 1 or 2 weeks, but because there's a lot of back and forth, it obviously becomes more of like a 1 to 2 month process for each culture, where you don't work on it all the time. But yeah, I think that it's like the first reaching out, conducting a few interviews that might take a few days. I come up with like a story idea. I show it to Nefeli, who does all the illustrations, and she's like a head of design, and she will work on it together, give each other feedback. She'll create some drawings on it. We'll send it back to them. They'll give us their feedback, and then there's this back and forth.
So I guess like through that whole process, what would be something that you could think of that was keeping you up at night? Like, what's the thing that you're like, you know, oh, I really want to make sure I do this. Like, is there something that's like eating at you a little bit?
Every night, a very different thing.
But maybe there's one that you could be like, oh, it's this, you know.
I think for me, as a writer, I think it's like, A, is it accurate enough? And then B, is it imaginative enough? And I think sometimes the two tend to clash. So it's finding that balance between it's educational, it's accurate, but then there's also some like fictional, imaginative element to it. I think that balance is for me the hardest to strike. And I think for the illustrations, I can't speak for Nefeli, but I think she also is trying to be, you know, like as accurate as possible to like the images of that culture, but then add her own like touch to it.
Right. Yeah, I can see that this project would have to walk, well, maybe not a fine line, but at least walk a line between these, you know, not so much stereotyping an entire country and, you know, but yet still representing it to a degree that you would be, I guess, proud to share, or it have that touch of adaptation to it. It feels like, yeah, that those are some tightropes you're walking there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I think like that's one of the reasons we have the concept of like every culture follows a specific character, so that it gives you the idea of like, we're not saying that everyone does this. There's like, it's one specific character from that culture, which makes it a bit more personal and allows some room for, you know, character development and like a fictional plot development. But then also it's, for us, it's, you know, like, again, it's not even an introduction to that culture. It's like a first step towards helping kids become more curious about that country, feel that they're more familiar with an aspect of that country, feel that they would want to like meet someone from that culture, read more about it and whatnot.
You know, you might be the perfect person to ask this, because this is something that I've been discussing quite a bit since quarantine, since we're all, you know, locked away. You know, I'm watching my son, you know, he's 9. My daughter's 6. They're constantly now on Roblox, or these like community building things online. So they're meeting people globally all over the place, you know, and I can see, you know, I have clients globally, and our people have connected. So do you think that our children are moving towards this more of a global society where they don't like, just because you're in China, it doesn't matter to me. We're on the internet at the same time talking. So like, we're playing the game together. So like, do you think that there's going to be this shift of like, it's not like how I grew up in a small farm town. I didn't see anybody, right? I mean, nobody in my life, right? So I'm the guy who comes out at like 18 going, whoa, there's a whole world here. What, you know, what is going on here? You know? But like, I don't know if my kids are going to grow up like that. Do you see like your book could potentially being sort of a something that like, you know, again, my 9-year-old looks at it and goes, oh yeah, I have friends from Italy. I have friends from, what are you talking about?
That's awesome. You're like, where did you meet them? I never took you there.
I was on Discord. We were on Discord. I was playing a video game with them. What are you talking about? So like, I wonder if they like, if they'll think differently about this when, you know, 10 years from now, you know, I don't know.
I think and hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, but obviously, you know, like even with like what's going on, I think like someone asked me was like, oh, do you think that like everyone will return back to, you know, like national borders after this whole pandemic and whatnot? And I was like, no, I mean, it's like what's going on. It's just more of a proof of like the planet's problems are more universal than ever.
Right.
And like we're connected to people from all ends of the planet.
Right.
In so many important ways, but also, you know, what you're talking about, like how like this shift to online, and even all these like companies talking about like remote work, hiring people from different places now. Like I think the day-to-day practical interactions with people from around the world will become more real, and it's not even a matter of you making an effort to meet people from other places. I think it's going to be more of a it's going to be hard not to meet someone from another place, especially if everything's moving online, right? And like there are all these new ways of creating communities that are way stronger than, you know, the neighborhood community that we used to know.
Yeah, so maybe at that point is where this empathy for other cultures, or this, you know, just a, you know, if again, we're thinking about hiring a guy for our company from Poland just because, hey, he fits the bill. He's from Poland. You know, he's a few hours ahead of us in time zone, but he does the work. Whatever. But like, there's probably culture things that I'm not aware of because I've never been to Poland. I've never, you know, I don't know, you know, but like, as long it's like for us as a company, so as long as he does the work.
Exactly. No, and I think what you come to realize when meeting people, I think it's like the big barrier when meeting someone from a different culture, especially like the different like religious or whatnot, the differences are like the first concept is like, oh, like you look different, or like it seems that you have a different lifestyle. And like I think the first introduction might be the one where you feel that, oh, that sounds strange. But I think when you start meeting people and like really, you know, like connecting with them, you realize how more similar we are than we think, you know, like.
Yeah, it's not that different, you know. I just trying to be a good dad, eating good food. I mean, it's not that ridiculous. It's not that crazy.
Exactly. The things that make us happy, you know, it might not be this type of food, might be a different one, but it's still like concept of sitting at the table and sharing a meal with my family or whatnot. There are some universal aspects that I think you can't debate that humans have.
Yeah. Let's we just went on maybe a little tangent there. We went a little off road in there for a minute, but so when in your process of all this does Kickstarter start to kind of enter into the equation of, hey, we should try crowdfunding for this thing that we're putting together?
So when we started, everything was like bootstrapped. Again, I was me and Nefeli working on creating these books and toys. Never got outside investment, so it was just like one step leading to the next. We always knew that we would need some sort of boost at some point. We felt that, you know, like traditional investment that didn't really fit the concept of our company, especially since it's not tech powered. And we felt that, you know, like a crowdfunding campaign would really be a great way for us to like connect with customers, especially since connect with customers and whatnot. I think there was definitely a phase where we were thinking of crowdfunding for our collection on China, and then we felt that collection might be more suitable for a specific demographic rather than a universal product. So I guess the idea was that, like, I think we have a product that could be loved by lots of people from around the world, people that are more like forward looking and are looking on places like Kickstarter or like crowdfunding campaigns for innovative new products. I think it was a product fit more than timing, or like, okay, this is a good product for Kickstarter.
Okay. What, like, how far did you want to take the book before you started putting together the page? Like how much of it did you want to have done? What were you trying to make sure, like, hey, we at least have 90%, 50%, or the idea, whatever?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting question. I think like every creator you talk to, the answer is going to be different, and it will always depend on your product, how much you know, like your supply chain and whatnot. For us, like we knew we already have we know the factories that we're working with, so we knew that we can manufacture in a specific set of time, and there were not many unknowns around that. The biggest element was like creating the book. In the beginning, we thought we would create everything and then go to Kickstarter. Then we thought it's going to be very time consuming. And maybe it's also better if we put it out there and get some feedback before we finish it up. So let's say not have all 30 countries chosen and like leave some room for like what customers would like to see and whatnot. So we set up like all of our like network with people that we would talk to. We conducted all our interviews from different countries and whatnot. We created some of the stories, but not all of them. And then at some point we felt, we're in a good phase. We know how our timelines will work since we've created some of the stories. We're confident that we can like launch the campaign. And if it's successful, then we know how much time we need for the rest. So I think it's launch the campaign once you're certain about the timeline you can promise. Right. Doesn't matter which stage your product is in, just a stage where you're certain about your timeline. That's my
gotcha
take on
it. And then from there, did you start moving into any sort of like pre-launch of the Kickstarter? Was there something that you were doing to start driving some interest? Or, I mean, it sounds like you potentially have some other customers from the other products, right?
We did. So we definitely leveraged like our previous customer list. We also conducted interviews with them before we decided on the Book of Culture, just to see if there was like an interest there. We launched like Facebook ads on just to collect emails, which was helpful just to see, like another validation. Okay, like there is demand for this. We had also reached out. We had also reached out to our like the retailers that we already work with and some of the schools that we have worked with, because we felt this would be it would be a campaign driven by our partners. That was a bit unfortunate because we got a lot of interest from them, but when the campaign launched, like it was when like the whole world went into lockdown, so it was very difficult to go back then and be like, hey, back this. Yeah. You need this for your school, like you need this for your shop that's closed right now. So that was a bit of like it was turned on its head, our plan around that. But we definitely tried to like reach out to all of our contacts, all of our customers beforehand to like see the interest and like get a confirmation of, this is a good product, it's ready, let's do it.
And was there any sort of maybe like an internal metric that, outside of validation, but was there like a number that you were trying to hit or anything like that? Because sometimes people say like, hey, I want to hit 1,000 emails, 5,000. Like, was there something that you internally were like, we really want to make sure we're hitting this? Or was
before we launch?
Yeah, before you launch.
To be honest, no. I think we were too deep into it to say, okay, we didn't get like the response we needed, we're pausing it, forget the video, forget the month we spent building that page. But I think you kind of know, like if you launch a Facebook ad and like you get no emails, then if like you can see like that the cost per acquisition for like an email is around like it's reasonable, then you know that there's something there. But we didn't have an internal number of, let's say, we need to get 100 emails before we launch.
Gotcha. Well, let's flip over because we actually haven't even talked about some of the numbers on the Kickstarter. We'll talk kind of Kickstarter specific right now, but so you guys had a goal of about 20 grand and you crushed that, raising about 164,000 but the number that sticks out to me is the over 3,000 backers. I mean, 3,335 backers. That's a lot of books that are going out. So that's a huge number. And even in the children's book in general, I mean, these are like grand slam unicorn numbers in children's books, right? That's a challenging thing to crowdfund typically. So what was sort of the sense of, when the campaign's launched and you're starting to see some success, what was kind of the energy like for your team, for you guys? Like what was going on behind the scenes?
Interesting. So what we did, which I would recommend to other creators to do it as well, was like we had our internal goals So we said, like, no matter what happens, like, things are going to go crazy, but we're going to have our internal goals. When we hit 5K, we do a happy dance. When we hit like 10K, we do this and whatnot, just so that we like know that we also like that the process is also exciting during like crowdfunding for us as well. Which was like, those are moments I think I always cherish. We're like, yes, we hit that. Like, let's get on a call with everyone and celebrate that. So celebrate your little wins, right? I think what was interesting was that like the first 2 days we focused extensively on network outreach, like reaching out to all our customers or our email list, or all our network, asking to share and whatnot. So in the beginning, it was just like race to get to the 20K in like 1 to 2 days, get that number up, and then start doing like those like initiatives that are more longer term. So we did that during the first 2 days. And again, we were so lucky because we launched the campaign 10th of March. I think like most of the world went on lockdown 12th of March. I think if we launched it 2 days later, we would not feel comfortable sending out a single email, as it was like a unlucky type of situation there. We did that, but then I think after that, there was definitely a week where we had no idea what was happening because everyone was in panic. The next plan was to start reaching out to the bigger accounts, schools, retailers. We paused all of that. We like events paused. So then we had to go back to the drawing table and we're like, okay, we reached our goal, but what happens now? Is it done? Will we get a new backer? So then we went back and like started thinking, okay, let's like think of creative ways on where we can like revamp this. And we thought of some initiatives. We launched some like stay-at-home activities for parents who are just switching to homeschooling. So we started like setting up this like we set up a landing page where people could like add their email and we would send them daily activity kits. We like also put that in our Kickstarter update. We did a lot of like online readings and talks versus like the physical like things we had planned, and like different initiatives to like engage with the parent community in different ways. So I think that really helped to get us back on track. What was really interesting was that our prediction was that this would be a campaign driven by retailers and schools. And if you look at the different reward levels, I think that was like definitely not the case of what happened, but it was good in the sense that we ended up finding ways to engage with like parents themselves. It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Was there anything outside of that really kind of, I don't know, blew your hair back a little bit? Like, wow, I did not expect this country to be, as supportive. Or was there something like a statistic that you were like, did not expect that?
Actually, it was a very, very nice metric. Was that like we had like backers from, if I'm not mistaken, 64 countries, which is almost like a perfect third of like countries of the world, right? So it was like, it's a great metric for this specific project, right? So that was a pleasant surprise. Obviously, the top 5 countries were all the English-speaking countries, but we did get backers from different countries where English is not the first language. We obviously had a lot of interest in translations, which is something that we obviously can't offer right now, but I guess it's understandable. I think that the biggest surprise for me is how engaged Kickstarter community is. Like, this is the first time we've like engaged and talked to like potential customers so much. And like, I don't know, like every conversation is just an eye opener, like a validation for your product, like a thought just for you to like keep down the line. So I think that was my biggest thing about this Kickstarter campaign, how engaging the community is and how much we got to engage with our backers.
Yeah, I that's one of the biggest things I tell project creators that want to work on this is the money's nice, all that stuff, but you're underestimating this internal support that you're just not thinking about right now. But you may get ideas for other products. You may get little, oh my gosh, I didn't even think, just these little things could just be a quick comment from somebody. And most of the time it's
Definitely.
all in your best interest. Like it's not,
Oh, yeah,
you know, yeah, you'll have a couple
definitely.
trolls. They always, everything exists, but like, you
Oh,
know,
but
but
even
most of it's all
those, they're
pleasant.
important for you to know, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to be engaged with how people are reacting and responding to your product. But even like our stretch goals, like most of them were inspired by the comments we got and the feedback we got, which
Right.
was nice.
So, you know, one of the things, I mean, everything you're mentioning right now is how adaptable you were, pivoting, changing, not getting stuck in a
Adaptability
plan, right?
played a big part.
I mean, you know, but I want to acknowledge that because we have, again, anything that we've had that hasn't worked out well or failed has been project creators not willing to pivot, not willing to listen to the data, not like being stuck in like, I know this is what we have to do. So is that just something that you think is just a project creator, like this is who you are as a person, or is this something that your company is built on? Like, listen, we're taking what's coming at us and we're, you know, we're shifting and pivoting and doing what's best and still having success in it.
We're very, very open to like feedback. Sometimes maybe too open, but but I think this time it definitely helped us. And I think we slowly started becoming better on like we take in all the comments, we evaluate them. No piece of feedback is good or bad in our feedback. We always like take it into consideration. And then we take a step back and like try to measure it with what we have and what we're working on and see where it fits. But I think you definitely need to be open to ideas and like criticism, and like figure out a formula that works for you where like I'm taking in criticism and this is how I decide whether it's a good piece of criticism for my product or not, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's definitely something that our company is built on.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing because you guys could have just also thrown in the towel and just said, oh, well, what are you going to do? Just stop. You know, I mean, that could have been the scenario too, right?
I'm going to sleep.
Right. You know, so, you know, so what's happening then right now? I'm assuming, you know, money's in the accounts, you know, you've got a lot of backers that you need to ship out to. You've got global shipping too. I mean, I'm assuming that's got to be some conversation. So what's kind of happening right now?
A lot of things. So we're working on the book now. So we have until August to finish it and send it to printing because we're shipping in November. So like big chunk of the time is allocated towards like creating the book and like finishing it. And then some initiatives to continue that like pre-order flow coming. So like we have the pre-orders open on our website for the Book of Cultures. So we're treating it as, you know, like you can still pre-order this until November on our website. We are debating whether we are going to run an Indiegogo or not. Like we weren't planning to, but many people suggested we would. But we told ourselves we want to make sure that like everything is ready to go. And if there's some time, we might consider it. But like now I'd say 70% is product and fulfillment, 30% is continuing like getting orders and like marketing the Book of Cultures.
Right. How are you navigating the shipping? And this is somebody who has killed a couple companies in my past because global shipping is, it is it can be a nightmare if not done correctly. So how are you guys addressing that?
And it's funny because like whenever I tell people that shipping is one of our biggest problems, especially like people that work in software, I always like, how? It sounds so simple. I'm like, try launching a physical product with like low margin. And you'll understand what I'm saying. As of right now, the plan is to ship US books from the US because that's what we've also been doing. Very lucky because USPS has this concept of media mail where like if you're shipping books up to like 70 pounds, I think like there's a flat fee. So that's very good for us. So if anyone's like shipping books, you should look into USPS media mail. Shipping our books in the US from the US. For the rest of the world, we're shipping from Cyprus. And we got some deals from like the post office there. Hopefully it's going to work out. We definitely hadn't factored in like 64 countries. We thought it would be more like, you know, like 90% US and then a few here and there. But like from from the conversations we've had up until now, it sounds like it's under control.
Good. Awesome.
Let's see.
So, for you and the company, what does this, what does like the next 5 years look like? Like, what's the goals? Is there more books like this? Is there more products? I mean, what's kind of in the vision plan? What's the roadmap look like?
The plan is definitely to like try to grow this into like an educational like company around the concept of diversity. There's definitely we're definitely thinking of creating like a second and third version of this book of like 30 more countries and whatnot. We obviously will evaluate after all the books go out and like we continue seeing how like the response is around it, but that's definitely one viable solution. We currently have another product line, which is like mini lingos, which is like bilingual playing cards. That's doing very well. So we're continuing with that line as well. We're like launching new languages as we go along for that. But I think the concept, the idea is to like see how we can use all these buddies, the characters from each story, and like creating something bigger out of them. So like more toys around it and whatnot. Let's see.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool. Well, I've been asking people like more like a lightning round questions at the end of these, just because we're all locked inside. So if you're game for it, I can, and this won't be anything Kickstarter related or product related. So if you're ready to go, I can shoot these questions at you.
Let's go.
Okay. What's the last thing you watched on the old Netflix or HBO, Hulu? What's the show you watched?
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, that's a great one. Hey, I'm waiting for the new season to drop. It's supposed to drop really soon, right? The season 6, I think. Yeah. The last one.
Yeah. I started watching Schitt's Creek, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, but it's been great during quarantine. Last movie I saw was Little Women a couple of nights ago.
Nice. Is there any books you're reading right now?
Books, yes. I'm reading a book called Inside the Dream Palace, which is about the Chelsea Hotel.
Okay.
In New York and like that.
Yeah. All right. And was it like a biography of it, or is it a story about it, or?
It's an account about like the Chelsea Hotel, which like lots of like singers and writers lived there in the 70s.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right. Now I know that you're listening to all my podcast episodes. That I know. But are there any other podcasts?
Morning wake up.
Right. First thing I do is I hear some Jeff Wenzel podcast. No, is there any other podcasts that you're listening to right now?
I usually it's not a podcast. I usually listen to like the Times the Brief every morning. But that's it.
Okay. All right. And are there any like party games that you guys play while you're locked in? Is there any apps that you're using to get you through this time?
Party games. I really like board games. This week we've been playing with my roommates a game called Code Names.
Okay.
I don't know if you know.
No.
Code Names and Jackbox TV, like Feedage and Drawsome. Is it Drawsome or something? Apps Cactus. It's like it asks you a mindfulness question every day that you get to reflect on.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a nice one. All right, I think my last one is going to be around, are there any like blogs or websites you kind of go to in terms of helping your business, entrepreneurship, anything like that you find like little motivational stuff or advice, anything that you are kind of consistently reading?
There's Brain Pickings has a good combination of like picture books and like other books and like on like child development things. So it's like a blog by Maria Popova, which I really like. It's both business and non-business related, I'd say. I always like try to stay up to date on like any articles around like picture books. So like Google Alerts will send me like the articles every day.
Cool. Awesome. Where can people like dive in, learn more, start seeing the world you're building? Where should we send people?
Our website, worldwidebuddies.com. So you can pre-order the Book of Cultures. You can take a look at our other products as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you got a busy schedule, got all these products. You got to ship these books out. You got to finish the book, all that sort of stuff. This was an amazing project, and I was super glad that we could connect and chat. I know my listeners are going to just eat it up, what you did here. This is a great campaign. And man, I look forward to seeing what you guys create in the future. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very, very much. I really enjoyed chatting.
Awesome. Great. Have a good one. Thanks.
You too.